John Morgan and Mike Bohn here in Brooklyn, New York, and the UFC on ESPN or ESPN Plus era is officially underway. It was a pretty entertaining card here tonight. Capped off with a little bit of controversy. Henry Cejudo, UFC flyweight champion, was able to defend his belt against TJ Dillashaw. He did it in rapid fashion, but UFC President Dana White thought the stoppage was a little quick. TJ Dillashaw definitely thought the stoppage was a little quick. What about you?
Yeah, it was. I just for that level of fight, like I am all for the safety of the fighters, all that kind of stuff. But when you're talking about something of this magnitude, like you just need to have it be absolutely definitive, no question asked. Like I'm not saying we need to have TJ Dillashaw laying face first on the canvas, like completely unconscious or anything. But you know, it's always bad news when the moment the ref steps in, the fighter pops up and is like, you know, freaking out a little bit. So that was disappointing to see. Yeah, I just would have liked to sit here, this huge title fight, champion versus champion, and just not be talking about this. We'd be talking about how amazing Henry Cejudo is.
Well, I was going to say, it's frustrating because you don't want to take away from Henry Cejudo because he definitely looked good. I mean, it was a very short period of time, but he looked aggressive, he looked sharp, and listen, what he's accomplished now in beating Demetrius Johnson and beating TJ Dillashaw, that is an impressive feat that deserves some respect, but you're right. I felt it was a little early as well. You know, I felt like the ending was on its way to happening, but it's one of those ones where a couple more punches, if you just would have let it go and you wouldn't have had to worry about it, it would have been great. Listen, Dillashaw, he's calling for the rematch. Cejudo kind of calling for the rematch. He wants to say, hey, I'll do it if I can do it at 35. Yeah. But we don't even really know what's going on. We still can't get Dana White to tell us what's going on with the flyweight division. So I know there's nothing factual that we can point to and say, here's what they said tonight and here's what's going to happen. Yeah. How do you think this thing plays out? Is there a rematch? Does it happen at 25, 35? What happens?
I think so. I think there's a rematch, and I think it's at 35. I think that's the most logical way to do it, just because, you know, you have this whole thing kind of hanging over both of them a little bit now. And, you know, I do think the guys at 35, the Marlon Moraes, the Rafael Sansa, whoever wins that fight, like they deserve a title shot 100%, but I don't want to see like them fighting a version of TJ Dillashaw that's just not like the wholesome version that we want to see. We want to see him as peak. We don't want to see him with this controversy, and I just think you need to run it back. And you know, maybe we see Henry Cejudo fight one of those guys. We just need to see him. I think we need to run it back. We need to do it at 135, and then maybe Henry Cejudo is the champ. Maybe he's just one champ because 125 doesn't exist anymore. I don't know. There's a lot of dynamic that goes into it, but yeah, I do think we need to do this again. We need to do it at 135 and just clear up any possible speculation. But yeah, I think doing it again at 125 is the most unlikely scenario.
Nice. All right, well, the co-main event, Greg Hardy made his UFC debut, fought against Alan Crowder. What a way for this thing to end. I mean, right, like with all the controversy that already surrounds Greg Hardy, then for this to happen, crazy. An illegal knee, disqualification, Alan Crowder gets the win. We didn't get to talk to Alan Crowder. He was actually transported for precautionary reasons. Yeah, we did get to talk to Greg Hardy, who came in and was on the verge of tears, it appeared to me. I mean, was really battling back emotion and saying, look, man, I let a lot of people down. You know, I let down my gym. I let down all the people who've put their name on me, which is true. You know, a lot of people vouched for him and said, look, this is a good guy. I know his past is bad, but he's turning his life around and he deserves this opportunity. Dana White gave it to him. Bizarre way for the fight to end. What did you think about it? Because this was the first time we've seen Greg Hardy go to a second round. Yep. I definitely think we saw some fatigue issues setting in there. Alan Crowder was making it a spirited affair. You know, started yelling at him and taunting him. It was a wild fight with a wild ending. What'd you take from it?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I took that we saw an inexperienced fighter. I know everyone wants to be like, yeah, you know, this is karma. This is this, that, and the other thing. You know, he got his comeuppance. He just, you know, it's in a way it is kind of a poetic ending, just considering, you know, the lead up to the fight and his backstory. But obviously you don't want to see any fight like that. But yeah, we had an inexperienced fighter who, like we said, he was in the second round. He had fought more cage time tonight than he had his entire career combined leading up to this amateur and pro. And like you said, a fatigued fighter. He went in there and he made a poor choice that was a product of heat of the moment, inexperience, fatigue, probably not having the clearest mental path and everything. And he screwed up big time. Like, there's no doubting it. He came in, he's like, I'm not a cheater, all that kind of stuff. Like, he didn't cheat. He just threw an illegal strike. He made a mistake. And we've seen this happen at the highest level of the sport with some guys who have, you know, Eddie Alvarez just over the summer with Dustin Poirier threw an illegal knee. Like, this stuff happens, and illegal elbow strike. Like
John Jones.
Yeah, John Jones. We've seen it from the absolute best of the best. So like, it was just a guy who made a poor choice, and it's just crazy that it happened, you know, in this moment at this stage with all the storylines. But you know, I think at the end of the day, it seems like Greg Hardy is going to be around in the UFC, and this will probably only help him. You know, now he has that, he doesn't have that pressure of being the undefeated guy. It's in a weird way too, it's a disqualification, like, you know, type of the John Jones thing as well. So it's weird, yeah. We're not saying he's, you know, gonna be like John Jones, don't give us crap here, but yeah, I think it's in the history books, we'll look back and just be like, that was just a crazy debut, but I don't think it's gonna be the lasting memory of his UFC career.
For what it's worth, Dana White did say, hey, listen, I'm, you know, guys like that, I'm looking to see if they can fight. And he showed me he can fight. Yes, he's raw. Yes, he's got a lot to work on, but he can fight. All right, listen, we go down to the preliminary card, which was, this is a unique situation, this first event on ESPN Plus. They had a 4-fight prelim card on ESPN proper. That was kind of almost a main card in itself, and the featured spot was amazing. Donald Cowboy Cerrone doing what Donald Cowboy Cerrone does. The old man came in and looked good tonight against Alexander Hernandez. Listen, this was every bit of the action-packed fight that we thought it was going to be, but rather one-sided. Not that Hernandez didn't have moments, but this was all about Cowboy Cerrone and potentially setting up a big fight. Him and Conor McGregor went at it afterwards and said, "Hey, you know, let's get this fight done." Cowboy saying he wants to chase that title, but what'd you think? He still got it.
Whew, that was he has made it clear he wants to come back for that lightweight title. That was a hell of a first step. Like, wow, that was one of the best performances I have seen from Donald Cerrone in the UFC. I had concerns about him going back down to lightweight, how he would look. You know, I had heard from people around Alexander Hernandez that he was going to be attacking the body big time in this fight and try to, you know, do what we've seen Donald Cerrone be susceptible to in the past. And he couldn't really get that going. Cerrone was just so sharp with his boxing, you know, finishes it with another head kick, or the head kick really sets up the finish. God, I could sit here for an hour and go on the records that this guy has. Most wins, most finishes, now most fight night bonuses, tied for the most knockdowns, the most wins in UFC, WEC, Pride, Strikeforce combined history. Like, I could go on and on. I'll have my post-fight facts column up and you can read it all. But yeah, just one of the, you know, highlights of the night, one of the highlights of Donald Cerrone's career, and just puts him exactly where he needed to be. He just couldn't have done any better tonight. Big fights are coming up for him, no question about it. And he said, listen, I don't care who it is. I just want to make sure it's a top-ranked opponent because I want to make sure it's moving me forward. But he did say the Conor McGregor fight would be, you know, especially enticing for him. The build-up will be big. And you know what? I think he deserves it. I mean, you talk about the ultimate company guy that has been doing it forever. Yeah. You know, that's going to be a big payday. So I hope they can make that happen. Again, Conor still has to go before the Nevada State Athletic Commission later this month, get that all cleared up. But once he's free to fight, kind of hope they put that together. So we'll see what happens next. Look, other enticing moments on this card. I mean, you know, Rachel Austen, we know what she went through to get here, the domestic violence situation. She came up short. Paige Vanzant was able to win that via submission, injuring Rachel's arm as well. Rachel wasn't exactly sure what was wrong with it, but definitely heard it pop, and it was in a sling post-fight. Gregor Gillespie, man, that guy, he's been flying under the radar. You need to have him on your radar if you're not, because he is a legit contender. What stood out to you from this? Those two for sure. I mean, Paige Vanzant, I think this fight was set up for her to win. It was, when this fight was first booked, you know, she's fighting a 4-4 fighter. It just kind of evolved so crazy with everything that happened with Rachel. She kind of, you know, it took away the actual look at their skills. Yeah, it became about her for sure. Yeah, so that was kind of weird, but ultimately I think this was a fight set up to get Paige back on track, and that's what happened. Gregor Gillespie, man, this guy's so good. Like, he took one strike in this fight. He's 6-0 in the UFC, and it's crazy. Like, I tweeted this out. There's so much reaction. Like, this guy's boring, blah, blah, blah. If you can't appreciate what he's doing in there, I don't know what to say. He is on the longest finishing streak in the UFC. Everyone in the entire roster, 5 consecutive fights, he's finished in the UFC right now. And if you can't appreciate the sight of him going in there and just breaking dudes down and then finishing them, I don't know what to tell you. Like, yes, everyone wants to see a Justin Gaethje brawl, but there is a art and a complete skill in what he does in there. So yeah, excellent to watch. I hope he gets a real legit guy next. And then just Dennis Bermudez, you know, didn't mention him, retires from MMA. That was a big surprise. Moves up to lightweight, gets the win over Tay Edwards, and then hangs up his gloves. I was pretty surprised by that one, and I think that was a, you know, interesting storyline tonight as well. No doubt about it. Well, listen, it was a good card start to finish, no question about it, and a big start for this new UFC on ESPN partnership. They're going to be together for the next 5 years, the $1.5 billion broadcast deal. So it was exciting to start out with, and we've got everything you need to find out what happened at the card, what happened after the card. Just check it out on MMA Junkie. It's all right there for you.